I want to switch from more discussion about the ground to discussion of air and talk about how good decisions really come from good data and how we as an organization are helping a range of other companies and organizations and federal and state and local air quality agencies collect, manage, and distribute their data. I work at Sonoma Technology, and we're a small environmental consulting business, and we work on kind of air quality, fire, and fire weather related activities, meteorology, and do some software engineering, and do a lot of collection of data. As we've shown in the panel on the upper left there is an air quality monitoring station that we deployed. We collect that data, interpret that, make sense of that for many of the partners and clients that we have, both in the federal space, organizations like EPA, State Department, and Forest Service, as well as state, local, tribal agencies, but also private sector organizations and nonprofits. We like to do lots of projects where we can go out, collect data, manage that data, quality control the data, and turn it into really good data, and then work with our clients to make good decisions from that data. If you look at the kind of value chain of data or the process of it, the underpinnings for really good decision support spring from instruments that are out in the field collecting data, communications of how do you communicate this data or information from a local site out in the field to maybe a hub or central facility. There it's quality controlled and validated and managed. Products are generated and disseminated, and then ultimately decisions are made. An example is shown down at the bottom where you observe air quality, it produces data, it gets converted to some sort of data product or information such as the Air Quality Index, which is an index that EPA created, ultimately to action where someone can use that information to make a good decision. In that case, it's an action about someone's health. What I want to do next is I want to present 3 different projects that talk about how data is used and the decisions that are made from those data. And these are all projects that we're working on with our clients. In the first, this is a government program. It's called Air Now. It's funded by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And Air Now is the national system for acquiring real-time air quality information. That's real-time observations from over 2,000 monitoring sites that are collected by more than 50 agencies across the U.S. and Canada, and all 50 states, 90 local agencies. Those same agencies are issuing air quality forecasts. All of that data flows hourly into the Data Management Center, which is run by our company, Sonoma Technology. And there we spend a lot of time and effort developing automated algorithms to remove outliers and problems from the data so that we can quickly get this data and information converted to products such as the maps that you see there, and then distributed out to the public, to the media, to others so that they can make a health-based decision. The whole process here takes as short as 5 minutes from data collection into the Data Management Center and then over to the right so it can be distributed. And that becomes really important because this information is used to make a range of different decisions. The information flows out in the upper left there to the airnow.gov website, so anyone can go there, view current and forecasted air quality conditions for the entire nation. In the lower left, it flows out to the media to inform the public about the air that they're breathing. And the real-time nature of it's really important because air quality varies hour to hour and certainly day to day. So having that real-time information is a real asset for people to make a health-based decision. There are examples where soccer coaches have used this information to cancel soccer practice because the air quality was so bad. But it's also interesting, once you start making data available, you find out all these other derivative users. And in the lower right, that's one user from industry that was interested in getting real-time air quality measurements because they were doing genomic research, and it turns out one of the dyes that they were using is very sensitive to ozone concentrations, and these are ground level ozone concentrations, one of the principal components in smog. And they wanted the real-time readings because they wanted to correlate that with some interferences that they were seeing in the dye that they were using in their genetic research. And so they wanted access to the data. So that was really interesting. So that's a government program talking about how we manage and curate data and make it available. The next project is for industry, and this is a program that we did for the Electric Power Research Institute, and at many of the electrical generation facilities across the U.S. That are powered by coal, there are piles of coal, and when the wind picks up, that can create dust that then blows downwind and causes impacts in downwind communities. The Electric Power Research Institute is really interested in could lower cost sensors, which are shown down here in the lower right, could those be used to detect some of this blowing dust? Traditionally, you would use reference instruments like this one shown here, which is rather large, about the size of a quarter of a car or so, and that costs $20,000. So it becomes very cost prohibitive to put lots of these out. But these lower cost devices cost on the order of $300 to $500. So there might be an opportunity to deploy many of these around there. So what we did with this hope was to really ask the question, well, how good are these devices? And did a co-location or a study where we ran a reference station along with these lower cost sensors and a weather station, and it turns out that they're actually pretty decent. This is a time series plot, a little bit messy, but it shows the green line is showing the data from the reference station, which are hourly, report every hour across here, and there was a coal dust blowing event right here. These monitors, these low-cost monitors, report more frequently, about every minute, and they detected these short bursts of coal dust that was being transmitted. Now, they weren't quite as accurate as the reference stations, but they were certainly good because they could tell, was it a low amount, a modest amount, or a higher amount of coal dust that was blowing. And this, I think, is really encouraging, looking at how we can use newer technology to address an old problem. And that leads me into kind of my final area, and there's this real emergence of personal air monitors. These are low-cost devices that can be used by almost anybody. Traditionally, air monitoring has been done with instrumentation that's $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000. So obviously very cost prohibitive for anyone, be it citizen scientists or community groups, to go out and make measurements. So we've been involved in looking at this, evaluating these since 2009, and looking at the characteristics. They're low cost, they're portable, and the accuracy can vary widely. Some of these are very bad. They don't produce usable data. Other instruments are surprisingly good. There are a number of applications here for improving family health, precision public health, better research, etc. The one that I want to talk about is really a simple one. It's an educational program that we developed to use these sensors, and it's called Kids Making Sense. And it's a STEM educational program, science, technology, engineering, and math. And what we do is we go in and we work with a school or school district and train students and the teachers about air pollution. Then the students then will take an air sensor, as you can see right here, the woman right here is wearing one right there, and go out and make measurements of air quality in and around their school. They will discover things like this is in the New York City subway system. Here's the vent from the subway, and you can see all this brown area above the vent, that's particles coming out, and this instrument measures particle pollution. And then lastly, we can crowdsource the data and figure out where are some of the hot spots during that particular day. And each student gets up and they get to explain what they observed and what they collected. We ran a Kids Making Sense event in Sacramento, and it was really interesting because this was a 3-week project. We went in, we trained the teachers, trained the students, and then they had the sensors for over a week. This is showing one of the routes where they walked around in the upper right here, made measurements along a busy road out in front. Here's the school area. Luther Burbank High School is the school. And they had a question, and it's actually a pretty simple question. They said, we think it's more polluted in the front of our school, where the busy road is, than it is back in the teachers' faculty lot in the back of the school. They designed a measurement program, made measurements for 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, did it in the morning, midday, and afternoon, in the front parking lot and also in the back parking lot. And they had a couple of different teams. They looked at the data and they found out the opposite was true. It was actually more polluted in the back parking lot where all the delivery buses, the school buses were idling, and you had a lot more particulate matter, which is one of the components in smog, being produced back there. And so this was really interesting because they had a perception of how the world was, but by taking measurements, and good measurements, they were able to show definitively that that wasn't the case. It was not more polluted in the front of the school. It was actually more polluted in the back of the school. So that was really interesting. So as we come back kind of full circle here, I think there are a number of really interesting opportunities going forward, but there are also some challenges. If we look at this traditional observe that produces data, then we convert to information and action. One of the things that we're going to see is there's a lot more devices that are going to begin producing data. It's not the $20,000 instruments where the accuracy is very certain. All of a sudden, it's thousands of different instruments where the quality of the data is largely unknown or maybe variable. The amount of data that we're going to need to handle is growing leaps and bounds now, and is even going to grow more. And so looking for ways to automatically process, reduce that, detect problems and outliers with the data is key. And then the third part of it is, how do we use this new information? How are we going to develop algorithms, processes to tease out signal from probably very noisy data, and to answer questions that are either health questions or science questions or industry or various other outlets there. So I think there are a number of challenges, but we can certainly get over those. And I think the opportunities for better characterizing our environment with some of the new sensing technologies are really exciting. So with that, there's my contact information, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk today and look forward to questions. Thank you.